Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Real Way. Real stories of real people in a real community trying to serve Christ in a real way. I'm Brandon Morrell, the Director of Youth Evangelization and Digital Ministry here at St. Thomas Aquinas and Our Lady Help of Christians. And today we got Father Alex. What's going on, Father Alex? How you doing?
I'm doing well.
So, Father, it's great, I think, for people to get to know a little bit of your background story. How long have you been here at St. Thomas?
Been here for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes, I was ordained, and this is my first assignment.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. I didn't know this was your first assignment. That's So let's do a little background, right? Because I think even just you coming to the priesthood, even before the 2 years here, what was the just that imprint on your heart that was just like, okay, God, maybe I'm called to the priesthood. I'm called to this vocation.
So like most priests, I was an altar boy, and as an altar boy, I would look at the priest and I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. Maybe I should do that one day. And as I went into high school and college, that kind of faded away. I had other interests, but it stayed in the back of my mind. And one day I was, I was pondering, should I enter a seminary? Should I apply or not? But I still had doubt. And one day I was watching Father Groeschel on EWTN, and he said, sometimes people ask him when they should apply to the diocese. How do they know whether they have a vocation? He said, well, you're never going to know for sure. But if you think you have a vocation, pursue it. And I realized, well, I think I have a vocation, so let me pursue it. And I applied, and here I am.
Gotcha. And so I think for those that don't know, right, because I think our parishioners and even some Catholics don't understand what that process looks like. What does that look like?
Well, so once you think you may have a vocation and you decide to pursue it, you're going to call up the diocese and ask to speak to the vocational director. The vocational director, they'll put you in touch with him. You'll meet with him. He'll talk to you, ask you very basic questions, the kind of questions you're asking me. When did you first feel you had a calling? What does that calling feel like to you? What do you expect a priesthood to be like? And then if you seem suitable, you will apply formally, essays. Bishop reads your application, and you either get accepted or you don't. Then from there, you go to seminary. You go to seminary, depending, it could be anywhere from, at the minimum, 4 years, which would be very unusual, to about 8 years at the most.
Okay. And so where are you originally, like what was your original parish coming up? How did that all happen?
Well, I grew up out of state. I grew up in Arkansas, the land of cows and farms and chickens. And second half of my life was here in New York. And it would have been at the parish of St. Stan's in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, which was it was a huge church. I think it had 10,000 people per weekend, which is staggering back then. And there was only standing room only. You had to get to church early. I remember one time, it was a feast day. You could not even get inside the church. You were attending Mass outside in the street because you could not get in.
Wow.
They had the doors wide open. And I remember I heard the priest. I'm watching them through the doors, but I'm looking up at the sky and there's stars. It was such an unusual...
Oh, it was the evening Mass?
Yes, it was an evening
Okay.
Mass.
I'm going to bring this a little closer to you for sound purposes. But yeah, wow. Okay. What was it, like a vigil Mass or something?
It was some type of vigil Mass,
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so, you've gone, you had this call since you were younger, you went through the seminary process, and now you're assigned here. What are some things you think for you, have been unique about St. Thomas that just leave an impression for you?
It's a pretty vibrant parish. It is actually quite a busy parish. It's I've been assigned to maybe 5 or 6 parishes. This one and Our Lady of Snows were the busy ones. So once the year starts up in September, it's just go, go, go. So that's a little bit of a challenge, especially when we're down to 2 priests. When I first came here 2 years ago, we actually had, when I first arrived here, I think we had 4 priests.
Oh, wow.
We had 4, yeah. So we're Father Stan, myself, Monsignor Boyle, and of course Father Dwayne. Now we're down to 2. And that's just in 2 years.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So yes, there's definitely a lot of movement in his parish.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ministries and things. What are some things people will see you around? I know there's certain, ministries I see you kind of connected around just based on your time. What are some things, people will see you at more often?
Well, the one that you'll always see me at is going to be Friendship Club, because that one I run the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the ministries, they're sort of self-running, but Friendship Club, I'll always be there, and that's for our senior citizens. We just have a lot of fun together. Play games, we hang out. That's literally what we do. We play games and hang out.
It's creating community and fellowship and time for them.
It is. We've actually grown it quite a bit. It's been going very well. I also like Boy Scouts because I was a Boy Scout. And I made it to Eagle Scout. We have a pretty decent group here. Of course, ideally, if you want to be Boy Scout, you want to be Boy Scout in Arkansas or just any kind of agricultural area, because there's so many more opportunities.
Well, it makes sense because of the campgrounds and being able to do guard in the woods and stuff.
Yes.
Were you an Eagle Scout?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons why we've started this conversation and podcast, one, to allow people to get to know the people that they see, when they come into Mass or being connected to the ministries. But I think there's another part to our faith that sometimes can stay head knowledge and like figuring out how do we make that practical in our daily lives, right? Which is why we went with the real way, right? Like, how do we make this like really look practical in our daily lives? What do you think are some things that could help, whether it's our parishioners here or just your average Catholic and applying their faith?
Yeah, just get involved. There's so many things the Catholic Church does. There's something you will enjoy very much. You might not enjoy teaching, but if you don't enjoy teaching, then you may enjoy working in a food pantry. If you don't enjoy working in a food pantry, you may enjoy volunteering with the Senior Citizen Club, or you might want to volunteer in the choir, or you may want to volunteer with bereavement. There is a place for every single person. And just take a chance. I remember when I was in junior seminary, I was assigned, my apostolate I was assigned to older homeless men. And it was me and a guy who was 98 pounds. And we had to stay overnight. Overnight, we had a group of homeless men. It was me and Mr. 98 pounds, a bunch of homeless guys, overnight. And I realized these guys decided to have an uprising against us.
Oh, wow.
I was a dead man. So I actually tried to get out of it. I said, I can't do this. This is not my personality. Being the overnight security chef and caregiver for some homeless guys, probably carrying machetes in their backpacks. But I remember the advice the dean of students gave me. He said, Alex, could you try it? Just try it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll try to find you another apostolate. And I thought, well, I could try it. Sure, I could try it. I'll try it once, try it twice. Well, I fell in love with it. I enjoyed cooking for these homeless guys, hanging out with them, playing cards with them. I'd go and get movies. We'd watch old black and white movies. It was ridiculous. We're all having fun. I loved cooking for them. So when the end of the semester came, I did not want to leave these homeless guys. And me and my 98-pound buddy were trying to scheme to try to figure out how can we extend this. But there was no way to extend it. But it's a reminder just to put yourself in places that you might not see yourself. And you might be surprised how things just bloom.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think the more you're surrounded by the community, connected to the community, it definitely assists you in your daily process. Now, I have to ask this also because I guess, do you have a thought process? Because I know that priests like approach things differently, right? But when you're crafting your homilies, do you have like I don't know, like this is my approach, so to speak, when I'm looking at the scriptures or so forth?
That's a good question. I would love to teach a basic, a very simple homiletics course someday. There's different approaches. Probably the ideal approach is to read the gospel, just kind of meditate on it, sit in adoration, let the Holy Spirit just guide you. However, that's the ideal. And the approach I use is more of a standard writing approach, where you try to think of a good hook or an opener, something to grab people's attention. Then you have 1 or 2 points, try to develop it, you try to have some personal stories. Hopefully it'll be something that they can apply to their lives, or give them an insight that's useful for their lives. Tell a funny story if you can, make them laugh once if you can, and then bring it all to a nice ending at the end. So sort of a more mechanical style.
Gotcha. Is there anything that helps you think of the stories? Is it just something that relates to...
Just listen. Your life is filled with stories. Who knows? Maybe I'll have something will come out of this conversation that'll become a story.
Right.
Yeah. Our lives are filled with stories. But it's like a good comedian. A good comedian, he's pulling his material out of the little things that happen as he's walking to the grocery store to buy milk, and something happens. That's it.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, not a priest, so I don't give homilies, but like even preparing the talks for the youth ministry, there's some of those same kind of thought processes. Like, all right, we have this theme that we need to talk about. Here's some scriptures that relate. Okay, here's a story. Here's a song. Here's something that kind of relates to that moment, and then you kind of build it from
And
there.
I'll give you one piece of advice if you have to do it. Keep a notebook. Whenever you hear something interesting, maybe you're just listening to your favorite praise and worship song, or maybe you're watching an interview. It could be anything. And if you think, I could use that someday, save that link, copy, paste it, make a bookmark, put it into a notebook. This way you'll have a whole bunch of ideas. So when it comes time for you to do your presentation or your speech on whatever, you've got a lot of material already there.
Right. Or an easy one, notes in my phone. Just put it in my notes. I'm always writing little thoughts, little lines, whatever.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So what would you say, and this is probably one of my last questions, right? Like for the average parishioner that, maybe it's not their first time coming to the parish, but they're looking to go deeper. What do you think are some areas that could help them out a little bit?
Do your own spiritual reading. A homily. You are not going to be well informed about the faith, which is so rich, from a 5 or 6 minute sermon. You have to, once a week, you have to do it on your own. Read good spiritual reading. You can just sometimes watch EWTN, find a particular speaker you like. I used to love Benedict Rochelle, Mother Angelica. Just those two will give you an education. Go to Catholic Answers, whatever you want, but take responsibility for your own spiritual education. You've got to.
That's good. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think, when was this? It was actually a homily you gave maybe about a month ago or so. And you were talking specifically, I think, to the elderly in the parish about like sharing their faith.
Yes.
And then you were saying something similar in that sense of like, it was the one where you were talking about like replacing your spot in the pew.
Yes.
Yeah, can you recap us on that for a minute? That'd be good.
Yes, I remember that. It was the gospel about Jesus sending us out 2 by 2. That's called the Great Commission. It's what we are all called to do, to evangelize. But the parishioners at that Mass were elderly. They're in their 70s at that Mass. So how can they go out 2 by 2? So I said, look, you guys are not going to be here forever. That spot you're sitting in, 10 years from now, you're not going to be there. You'll be at home. You'll be homebound, whatever. Think about, instead of going out and trying to go out and evangelize, just find one person to replace that spot where you are sitting. And as an older person, I said, don't feel that that it's going to be difficult. You've got an advantage. There's a lot of older people that you can approach much easier than a young person. You can connect with somebody that's in their 60s or 70s that hasn't been to Mass in 20 years. And a lot of them have stopped attending because they think, oh, I don't sin anymore, or I can watch Mass on TV, or something else.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, you were like, man, you need to know your faith well. You have to be approachable. I mean, I wrote the notes, man. You had some good ones, that one.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? When you evangelize, you don't need to know as much as you think. Everyone's afraid. Everyone thinks, whoa, if I approach this person, he's going to ask me about the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception. I don't know what to say. They're never going to ask that.
Give something didactic.
Yes. They're just going to mostly ask, how has the faith helped you in your life? So be able to say, well, I'm Brandon, and I used to be a rapper in my gang and whatever. That's not true, by the way. And I found the Lord, and then the Lord, I was really full of anxiety, and then the Lord really brought peace to my heart. Whatever. We all have a story, whatever your story is.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that personal testimony. I mean, that's the revelation thing, right? Like, saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Cool. Any final thoughts before we kind of wrap this little session up?
No, just stay close to God. It's all about staying in the close friendship of God. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?
Oh, amen. Again, this is the real way, real stories, real people, real faith, real community. We pray that this maybe inspires you. If you are a parishioner here and you want to share this with people that maybe haven't, you can use this as an evangelization tool. If you're somebody that's distant and far away, I hope this helps you to get inspired to go get connected in a community in some way, shape, or form. We're always here to support here at St. Thomas Aquinas, Our Lady Hope of Christians. We thank you for watching The Real Way. God bless. Peace.